Country Fellow speaks again here today. Want to talk some more about this fusing, and then I'm going to get into where I buy fireworks, how I get them so cheap. I also want to talk about some supplies that you may want. First, I want to talk about fusing my artillery rack. I forgot that yesterday. So here you'll see where I started fusing one. There's several strategies. If I wanted like this rack, I wanted these two to go off together. I could just put these two fuses together with my feeder fuse and run it on down. Or if I just wanted to go all the way up one side and back, I could connect one and the other. Reminder, make sure if your fire's coming this way, your black powder tips are facing the direction that the flame is actually coming in. Try to do 2 points of contact if you're doing zip ties. And if you're doing tape. I want to also talk about today the supply part. These are HDPE tubes, and I would strongly suggest these. I got these from Pyro Boom, but you can get them elsewhere. I like these because if one of these happens to explode, these things don't shrapnel. They just split and it blows out the side. Of course, it's still dangerous, but they're not as fragile as these fiberglass consumer tubes you get. And you can use these many times. Just make sure each time you dump them out to make sure that if anything stayed in there, that you got that out. Also, when you're loading these shells into any type of tube, make sure you recognize where the fuse is, because holding it by the fuse shows you which way they're supposed to be loaded. So I just wanted to give you that quick tip. This mortar rack, I just had some 2x4s and other board laying around. I made me a mortar rack. There's lots of videos online on how to build your mortar rack. So building a mortar rack is quite a bit of fun. You could use these if you've had several of these over a few years, or if you get some of these from a local shop or whatever, you can build a rack using these, but I wouldn't suggest it, especially using it more than 4 or 5 times. Because you'll notice when you buy these, one tube usually has 6 shells with it, which means these are basically tested to be shot at least 6 times. So use it for about 6 shows and then dump it and get some new ones if you're going to build your rack out of these instead of the HDPE. I use Liquid Nails Heavy Duty just because when I glue my cakes to my pallets, or I glue a 200-gram cake to a 500-gram cake so it doesn't tip over, I use Liquid Nails Heavy Duty to make sure it stays. So you may want to pick up some of that. Fire extinguisher, very important for the show, because if you've got to get something put out quick, this is so much better than water, because you can carry these quickly. You can put it out. I would suggest a water hose and a sprayer if you have, wherever you're shooting your show is close to a water hydrant somewhere. Where I will be shooting, I do not have a water hose, so I'll show you some things that you might want to pick up in that case. So here, this is basically just a sprayer that you can pick up at Walmart or whatever, or Lowe's, and I just fill this with water. The reason I do that is because before I do my show, wherever the grass, or before I put out my pallets for my show, I find the grass, I use this thing, I wet all the grass around where my pallets are going to be to stop anything from happening, and then I make sure this thing is full for the show, because this little targeted nozzle here really comes in handy when you're trying to put out that one cake on the pallet that is caught on fire while you're on the other pallet. And again, I would suggest having multiple people out there. I would suggest having one guy shooting the fireworks, which is probably you, or one person out there with water, fire hydrant, whatever, being the spotter to see if anything chaotic goes on. And having that spotter is great because they can see things that you're not seeing because you're worried about firing the fireworks. Have that extra person out there. Also have a music person so they're not distracted, but these are great to put out some little fires. I usually do a bucket of water. Now what you don't want to do is, if you have a dud firework, do not pour the bucket of water on that firework. I went to a training, and that's one of the things that they warned us again, because if you do, sometimes these fireworks, cakes, artillery shells, whatever, they will have something in there that's going to be shooting out. You fill it with water, and the powder is going up into the plastic. You fill it with water, you think it's going to put it out, but the problem is once you do, whatever's in there can sometimes, because these are made out of plastic, they will actually float out, and then all of a sudden the dud decides to fire. So try not to drown these things by dumping buckets of water on them. Suggestion I would give is when I do my bucket full of water, I use towels that I'm getting ready to throw away, old stained, tore up towels, old shirts, whatever, and I keep them in the water bucket. So let's say you have a 500-gram cake that is caught on fire. Sure, you could spray it and try to put it out, but I've noticed a lot of times what happens is you spray it, it fires back up, spray it, fires back up. But if you take one of these wet towels and you just drape it across the cake, the water in the towel, if it's saturated, is going to drip into the cake. It's going to help keep the fire down. It's going to help calm it. I have seen a wet towel totally put one out where it didn't catch back up. You can lay these across 200-gram cakes. If there's a big fiery spot on the grass, just drop the towel on it because it's wet. Problem taken care of. So I would suggest towels in your bucket of water, just for emergencies. So that's some supplies you'll want to also need. So what I want to talk about now is, and I will talk about some more supplies in just a minute, but I actually want to talk to you about where and how I get my fireworks and give you some suggestions on how to get cheap fireworks. I buy most of mine wholesale now. There are lots of wholesalers out there, wholesale fireworks dealers out there. You can get online, you can find those. I have found that there's a couple here close to me. I live in West Tennessee. I have a couple of spots in Missouri that I go to buy wholesale. I would strongly suggest that. I had a guy, he was asking me how I got my fireworks so cheap, and I told him, and he said, well, I'm not going to drive 5 hours to go get some cheap fireworks. And I asked him what his budget was, and he said, I spend about $3,000. Well, when we got to doing the math, okay, if you calculate the gas, if you calculate what you're getting paid per hour, you know, figure out how much time it's going to be, see if it's financially feasible. And what he found out was with his $3,000 budget, even with a 5-hour one-way trip or a 10-hour round trip, he found out of his $3,000 budget, he was probably going to get $1,000 to $1,500 extra worth of product by driving to the wholesaler. I'm going to tell you, one of the wholesalers I use is Rocket Fireworks. I like them. They are right outside of St. Louis. I like Rocket Fireworks because you can buy wholesale there and you don't get penalized for a small limit. They sell by the cases. Also, I would suggest Most Wanted Fireworks. I like Most Wanted Fireworks because he has a direct connection to a factory in China. He's got his own products, which tells me what he sells is legit because he's designed some of his own fireworks products. But Most Wanted Fireworks, he's real cheap. I buy them from him online. I meet him to pick up the fireworks that I purchased from him. He is one of the cheapest that I have found. Also, Spirit of 76 is in Missouri or near St. Louis. They are a great source also. They're about 3.5 hours from where I am. So you can do Spirit of 76 if you also want to. Spirit of 76 will actually ship, whereas Most Wanted Fireworks does not do shipping. Rocket Fireworks will ship if you want to get online and look at their prices, but I would suggest you go in person. So go wholesale, and you're thinking, well, I don't buy enough fireworks to go wholesale. Well, maybe you don't, but maybe you plus your 2 friends that shoot fireworks at your show together, if you add up your budgets, you're probably going to be better off to go in together, buy wholesale, and split the cases amongst one another. I really suggest that you go wholesale if possible. I'll buy wholesale. I'm still looking for a partner or two around here to go in with me to buy wholesale, because with wholesale, the more you buy, the bigger discount you're going to get. Also, I know with Most Wanted Fireworks, he is debating on whether letting people buy whole containers of fireworks. So you might want to look him up. Spirit of 76 currently does allow you to buy whole shipping containers worth of fireworks. So if you're wanting to do your own tent, I would suggest them. So what I want to talk about next is, let's say you're not going to do wholesale fireworks. How can you get cheaper fireworks? I would suggest don't go to the tents. The reason you wouldn't want to go to the tents, because they have to pay or rent the tent. They have to pay for the utilities they're using there sometimes. They have to pay rent at the location they have the tent. They have to pay employees, because if they have a tent, generally they have several other tents and they're paying employees. That price is going to come, or those costs are going to come back to you. I would suggest going to brick and mortar stores or the metal buildings that are selling fireworks, because you're generally going to get them cheaper there because they have less overhead. Well, let's say you go to those places. How are you going to get some better deals? Well, obviously cash is king. Now, when I first started buying fireworks and started negotiating, because I've done real estate, bought and sold real estate, bought and sold several things. I've done several business ventures. What I used to think was, okay, cash is king because you don't have to pay tax many times. And that is actually false. You do pay the taxes. It's just they give it cheaper, sell it to you cheap enough that they themselves will pay the taxes for you. So if they say that if you pay cash, you won't have to pay tax, you actually do. It's just they are going to pay the sales tax for you. So it's actually just a discount they're giving you. They're not really cheating the government or anything like that. They're just giving you a discount, and they themselves will pay the sales tax or whatever on that for you. So I wanted to throw that out to you. Also, when I first I thought it was for tax purposes. But what I have found is cash now is so much better, because when they scan those credit cards, if they're using something like Square or some other thing to scan the card to get the charge, or they're using WhatsApp or PayPal or these things, they're getting charged extra fees for those cards. But using cash, they don't have those extra fees per card. So cash is still king. You're going to come out better with cash. When you go into the store, let them know what your budget is. Because if you go in there and, if your budget is $200, maybe don't tell them, start buying. If you're going in and you're spending $2,000, you let the guy know, hey, I'm planning on spending $2,000. And I know your fear may be, well, if they think I have more money, they're going to raise the prices on me. What I've found with fireworks is it's the opposite. You let them know that you're going to spend substantial amounts of money in there, they're going to give you discounts, because they want you to buy extra product so you'll come back again. They also want your return business. If you're spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, even $500, they want you coming back next year. So they're going to give you discount. They're going to give you complimentary product. They're going to treat you really well. Also, I would say, when you go into these fireworks places, find the person that knows the lingo. Start throwing out expressions like mortar shell, or start throwing out words like crossette effect, dahlias, and those types of words, because you'll find the guy that knows the fireworks, which is really the guy that probably owns the fireworks store. Because what I've found is most people don't do fireworks stores because they want to make money. Sure, that's why they're doing it. But most fireworks stores that I've found, people got into fireworks stores because they love fireworks. They love to talk about fireworks. And if you're talking to them about fireworks, they're probably going to give you a discount because they know that you have a passion kind of like they do. Also, a negotiating technique is ask them about other places. What do you know about so-and-so store down the road? The reason you do that, it's a mental thing. It brings up competition, and they're going to try to keep your business. So they're probably going to give you complimentary product or something to keep you away from that guy or that other place and keep you coming to them, or keep you where you're at so you don't go elsewhere. Another suggestion that I would give to you to try to get fireworks cheaper is buy what you want to buy and have one extra thing that you would like to pick up, but it's just outside of your budget, or it's that thing that you would like to see, but it's not really something you're going to buy. Take that up to the counter with you and start checking out, and then just put it on the table and say, you know, I don't think I really want this. The reason you want to do that is fireworks, people love fireworks. And if you really want to experience that firework, I have found that most fireworks retailers want you to experience that. They may give you a discount on it. They may give you that one product for cost. They might throw it in just to get your service or your business next time. So add one extra item there so that they might give you a extra bonus along with that. So do some negotiation. Just ask the guy. I mean, most they can do is say no, right? Just be like, you know, can you give me a discount on this? Or what's the best you can do on this? Just ask them questions. Do some negotiation. Shop around. Don't buy all your fireworks from the first tent you go to. Check several tents, several shops. That's what I've done. I've found in my area, the places I buy fireworks from, there are only two places. I buy my wholesale stuff. I've pretty well given up on Spirit of 76. I buy my wholesale from Most Wanted Fireworks, and I buy from Rocket Fireworks, because Rocket Fireworks and Most Wanted Fireworks together, they're going to have the product I want, the names that I want. So that's why I choose them. But locally, here in West Tennessee, I buy from Big Bang Fireworks in Milan, Tennessee. The guy that runs the store, Bert, fantastic guy. He's going to make you leave happy. You go in with a budget, he's going to help you get the best show that you can have. I went in one time and I only had $500. I had me 4 or 5 500-gram cakes. And he came to me and he said, you know, these 500-gram cakes are great, but man, look at these 200-gram cakes. He said, you take this one that you have in your buggy, let's look at it on YouTube. Let's look at this 200-gram cake. Let's look at it on YouTube. And he was right. The 200-gram cake was better. And you might be thinking, well, he just hoodooed himself out of more money. Well, no, he didn't, because I'm still spending the same amount of money. This guy actually cared, and you can tell that there are, when people actually tell. I would suggest Big Bang Fireworks. Also, his prices are some of the best you're going to find in West Tennessee. The second one I would suggest is actually a friend of the guy that runs Big Bang Fireworks. His business is called Rod's Fireworks here in West Tennessee. Rod's Fireworks. Some of the best prices you're going to find. Sometimes he's a little cheaper than Bert on a product. Sometimes Bert's a little cheaper than he is on the product. I go to both. I buy from both. But Rod's Fireworks, his billboards usually say cheapest prices in West Tennessee or cheapest prices in Tennessee. And I've got to say, he is. The only time I've seen him beat would be Big Bang Fireworks, and most of the time he's cheaper than Big Bang. So those are some local stores that I choose, and you can find some of those too. When you go to these stores, by the way, not the tents, you might ask, or you might ask them too. I found this was interesting. I went to a certain store, and what I asked them was, I said, what do you have in the back? You want to ask that question. Because when you bring up the question, what do you have in the back? Or where's the really good stuff? They're going to take you to the back sometimes, and they're going to show you where they have their Pro Line stuff. They're going to show you where they have their consumer Pro Line stuff. They're going to show you where they have some bigger fireworks. Now, the reason they keep those in the back is not really that they're trying to hide them. It's just most people that run fireworks shops really care about people's safety. And when it comes to those Proline cakes or some of those bigger cakes, they are afraid somebody's going to take them home, shoot them the wrong way, do them the wrong way, and somebody's going to get hurt. So what they would really rather do is make sure that you're the guy that's going to shoot them the correct way, protect people, look out for them. They're also, most of the time, are going to try to sell you a firing system for those bigger products, for that consumer Proline stuff. And they will use, some of them will sell you these. If not, look around, you can buy a firing system with these igniters or different types of igniters. So I would suggest that you go that route. Also, I went to a store and I mentioned, and I was looking around, I was buying a few things because I love to buy fireworks. And he started talking to me, he was like, well, where do you usually buy from? And I tell him, look, I always buy wholesale. Well, lo and behold, as soon as I said that, the guy said, would you consider buying wholesale from me? I have these cases here that I'd like to unload. And he sold me some product wholesale. Not as cheap as my wholesalers would have sold it to me, but still, you might be able to buy wholesale directly from that person. And in future years, they might do it. I even had one store, before I found Rocket Fireworks and some of these others, I even had this one store, he said, look, when I place my order next year, I'm going to contact you, and you let me know how much you want, and I will order it with my order, and I will charge you 10% overhead. And so I was like, wow, great deal. So that's be a way that you can find wholesalers. But again, I've already mentioned to you a couple of wholesalers. Real quickly, I want to go through some supplies that you might want. I talked about how to do timing on your fuses. I wouldn't get a tape measure. I would get one of these fabric tapes here to measure the lengths of your fuses. They're just so handy because they actually mold with the fuses so you can get a better one. If you're trying to wrap around a firework or two, trying to wrap it around and actually figure out how long the fuse is you've already got, or another one, this really comes in handy. When it comes to lighters, I suggest you get a firing system, but that's up to you. If you're going to do old school lighters, I would not suggest doing these types of lighters because your finger is going to get very burnt and they're just not great at lighting fuses. I would suggest something smaller like this that has the little torch. These are nice because they just fit in your pocket. You can carry them around. Or you could just do some of your lighters like this that has the torch effect, which lights things a little bit quicker. I would suggest these types of lighters if you're not doing a firing system. Sure, you could use a blowtorch if you wanted. I don't like carrying the big blowtorch around. I like carrying these around, but that's up to you. Make sure you have some cutters to cut your fuses that are not going to cause sparks. Make sure you look into that. I would suggest you get utility knife, box cutter with a real sharp blade for cutting the tops off the fireworks, for cutting the bottoms off the fireworks if you're going to glue them. Do not use these to cut the fuse. Bad idea. But I do use these to cut the sides of the fuse, or like if the fuse is stuck behind some kind of little plastic label or something, I will use this to cut down each side to get the fuse out of there. I use labels. I use labels to show me where the fuses are on my fireworks, to show the cues, to show different things. I would suggest masking tape to cover up your fuses. Zip ties are great when you're connecting fuses together. Get a small broom or a brush so that if you're gluing things down, you could use this to sweep the area of the clay that has come off the bottom of the cake where you've put it. Sweep that off, then it glues a little bit better. That's something I would suggest. I would suggest when you're shooting your show, wear long sleeves. But make sure it's not a flammable material. Or if it is flammable, make sure it's not readily flammable. Wear long sleeves so you're not burning your skin so much. Obviously, I'm going to suggest you have a hard hat because when these things go up, on the occasion that it does not blow up, you don't want to get hit in the head with this thing. I would suggest you wear a hard hat. when you're out there, get you a vest. They're real cheap. Get one of those little vinyl vests that are orange, green, yellow, so that if somebody shows up, they can find the guy in charge. And you can see each other a little bit in the dark. Obviously, get a flashlight or you get a headlamp so that you can see what's going on. And those of you that shoot out in front of a street light, the flashlight will still help you. It's actually still worth your time to go ahead and do it. I would suggest buying a tarp or a paint tarp, so that when you've got your pallet set up, just blanket that thing across to stop the dew from getting on it, to stop the random bottle rocket that some idiot's probably going to shoot from landing on it, setting off your show. So I would suggest getting some tarps to throw over the top of it. I've already talked about fire extinguisher and the water sprayer. I would also suggest that you get some caution tape. Yes, my last 2 shows, you know how it's a great fireworks show? When the fire department shows up or the cops show up. My last 2 shows, the cops showed up. I was within all the city ordinances. I was doing it in the correct times in the evenings. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but the cops showed up. Both times the cops showed up, they walked up, they saw caution tape, and my fellow met one of the cops and I met one of the cops. They saw the caution tape and they were like, well, it looks like you got everything under control. So use that caution tape. In that, make sure you check your fallout area. I make sure my crowd is 70 feet to 100 feet away from the setup, and I use that caution tape to make a border so they know not to get any closer than that, or they're going to be out in a fallout space. When the fire department showed up, they were happy to see the caution tape. They were happy to see the fire extinguisher. They were happy to see the bucket of water. And when they walked up and saw the caution tape, they knew, hey, you got this under control, right? I said, yeah, I got this under control. I would suggest that you do caution tape. I would suggest also, when you go to these shops, when you buy cases of fireworks, sometimes they come with these wooden boards here. Don't throw these away, because you can actually glue your fireworks to these if you're not even doing pallets, or if you're shooting in the grass, use these things. Let's say you're not buying a case. Well, when you go to that fireworks tent, guess what? They bought them in cases. They've taken the fireworks out. They have so many of these boards they want to get rid of. Ask them about them. You will get these for free. Just ask them, look, when you open up the cases, did you have any of those boards left over? And they want to get rid of these. They will give you these. Use these for your show. Great, something great that I bring up to you. Also, consider a Bluetooth speaker if you're doing music, so that you don't have the extra wires laying around. Well, this video got a little bit longer than I really expected it to, so I will do another show I will do another video to show you the prices that I'm paying, and I will try to get that video uploaded today as well. So if you actually want to see the prices that I'm paying, to see how bad you're getting screwed over, or to see if it's really worth your time to drive, tune in to the next video. I will show you some wholesale prices. Let me just throw out a few teasers here. I get highfalutin, which most people around here sell it for $50. I get it for $17. Ultimate Hero 5-inch canister shells. Most people are paying $80 to $100 for the Ultimate Hero canister shells. Just for one box of 24, I get 4 boxes of 24 for the exact same price. Like, I get 96 for the same price. You're getting 24 shells. And I just want to share with you how good some of these deals can be. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great 4th. This is Country Fellow Speaks. Like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions. I threw in a lot of information. Have a good day. God bless.